that what has happened to them in life, some tragedy, some calamity or whatever, they say, what did I do to deserve this? Why did this happen to me? I'm a good person. Why should this happen to me? And because of the fact that they can't accept that this is from a just God, because that's how they perceive it, they can't see any good in it. All they can see is evil. So they say there couldn't be a God there. If there was a God, this wouldn't have happened to me. So this is proof, the fact that this happened to me, this which I consider to be oppression, unfair, then there can't possibly be a God. So that leads them into a state of disbelief. Whereas if one understands that Allah does not oppress anyone, it means that what we perceive as something unfair is in fact fair. Just we can't see how it is. It's in fact, there is good in it, but we're not able to perceive where that good actually is. But if we're clear on this attribute of Allah, that He does not oppress anyone, that He is absolutely just, then that prevents this evil thought from coming over us and drawing us into a state of disbelief where we reject God's existence. Very, very important point. As I said, this is a very common factor in the disbelief of many people who today deny God. They didn't reason it out. They didn't sit down and logically say, well, look at this, look at that, look at the other. I conclude there isn't a God. No, it's usually an emotional experience. Something has happened which they can't explain, they don't have an answer for, and it seems to be bad, oppressive, unfair for them. And the only way that they can deal with it by saying, there is no God. Because they can't find an explanation. There couldn't possibly be God. So therefore, I need to blame other people. It's this one's fault or it's that one's fault or whatever. There can't possibly be a God there. So, that was the second aspect of the affirmative and negative attributes of Allah. So, that completes basically our foundation for understanding the names of Allah. Having understood that, we're already building now on another foundation, which is that all of these names have some relevance in our lives, and we need to now find that relevance. Whether it is simply to praise Allah alone, because we cannot reflect that attribute, or whether it is to not only praise Him, but also to reflect that attribute in our lives. This is the foundation that we're now going to build our understanding of the names of Allah on. So, having understood that, then we can begin to look at the greatest name of Allah. Allah has 99 names. And among those 99 names, one of the names is the greatest. And of course, that's greatest relative to human beings. Relative to Allah, it is all the same. What we know is that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, on one occasion, heard one of his companions make a dua. This dua, Allahumma inni as'aluka بأني أشهد أنك أنت الله لا إله إلا أنت الأحد الصمد الذي لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. O Allah, indeed I beseech you, bearing witness that you are Allah. There is no God worthy of worship besides you, the one, the self-subsisting, who neither gives birth nor is born, and nothing is similar to him. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, when he heard that, he said, by the one in whose hand lies my soul, he has asked Allah by his greatest name, by which he responds if he is prayed to, and he gives if he is asked with. So from that hadith, and there are other narrations of it, it was concluded that there is one name out of all of Allah's 99 names, or more, which in fact is the greatest of Allah's names. And we did say before, we should just remind viewers that though we spoke about 99 names, we already gave evidence that the names of Allah are not limited to 99. So, though in this program we are going to just cover 99, we should know that this is really not a limitation, that there are others besides these which we'll be covering. Anyway, what we're talking about right now is the greatest name of Allah. What is that greatest name? Well, scholars differed. There were different opinions, and there are other narrations which mention different verses in the Quran where the name can be found, etc., etc. Now, the opinion which a number of the leading scholars agreed upon was that the greatest name of Allah was in fact the name Allah itself. And the evidence which is used for that, because of course, as I said, there are different opinions. For different reasons, scholars chose other names. Ibn Taymiyyah, for example, he chose the name Al-Hayy, because he felt that this was the most basic name of Allah, which represented the most basic attribute, because to be living is the basis for all of the attributes. Without a living God, then all of the attributes have no meaning. So that was his line of argument from reason and logic. Anyway, the point is that a number of other scholars, including his own student Ibn al-Qayyim, held that the greatest name of Allah was in fact Allah. What was the evidence? The first is that name can be found in all of the hadith narrations which describe the greatest name of Allah, in which it's included, referring to verses here and there. The term Allah is shared by all. The second evidence is that it is the name most mentioned in the Quran itself. Over 2,602 times the name Allah is mentioned in the Quran. The nearest name to it, Ar-Rahim, and is only 114 times. The next closest to it is Ar-Rahman, 57 times. So we can see very clearly from this that the name Allah is the one most frequently used by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself. And these are among the evidences. There are further evidences for the choice of Allah as the greatest name of Allah. And we will be looking at them in our coming episode. I'd like to thank you all for being with us in this segment of our program, In the Names of Allah. And we hope to see you again in our coming programs. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
When you are weak and the road seems long, remember, just remember, seek strength from the strong.